All right. So it's wonderful to meet you. Thank you for taking a minute out for the show. I appreciate it.
I'm excited to be here.
Me too. So I want to begin with a question. I'm going to retire, but I want to know, surviving a pandemic, how much of a ripple has that time period that we survived affected the way that you do your work and live your life now?
So I actually really benefited from COVID on a few different levels. First is like socially, I did not realize that I was an introvert. And because if you meet me, I present like an extrovert. I'm
Oh,
really
yeah.
outgoing and
Uh-huh.
I'm a little excitable and things like that. But really, most days I'm home alone, like 6 hours a day. So
Yeah.
when I figured out that when I did not get that, I was like, and so I figured that out for myself. And then something about my ability to just be like, oh, I'm going to leave this party early or no, thank you on that invitation just kind of clicked for me,
Yeah.
where I never really had that before. I was always like the last one at the parties. And I would say yes to 1,000 invitations. And I'm just like, nah, I really like not being in social settings unless I want to. So that was a huge benefit. The second thing is I have a digital business. My business is online. And so 2020 people were locked up at home just buying stuff online.
Yeah.
And so my business really thrived and I was able to scale and I was able to help a lot of people. And so that was the second thing. And then I mean the third thing I guess is maybe not the best, but I got real good at making cinnamon buns, which then I had to stop doing because I put on real pants one day, like a few weeks later, and I was like, oh, I need to stop coating
Uh-oh.
everything I eat with cream cheese frosting, which was disappointing, but I stopped doing it and everything was fine after that.
Yeah. Very nice. So, as an author and a finance expert, I want to get to the marrow of what you do on a daily basis. And to do that, I'm going to put you in front of a bunch of grade school kids. They're third graders, they're eager, it's career day. You walk in, and one of the kids in the back of the room says, hey, what do you do for a living? What's your answer?
Ah, so I help people be really good at their money by learning how to work like with themselves, learning how to work with their own mind, their own heart, their own behaviors, rather than just trying to like manage this external thing called money.
So, in the psychology of human beings, we all have weird relationships with money. How did that happen? What was the nexus, the Big Bang moment of why we can't get a handle on that? Because if whether it's love or money, we always as humans have hard times with it.
Yeah, and honestly, the the overlap between love and sex and money is vast. Like a lot of times I'm studying love and sex to see the way that people are exchanging in their money. So it's
Yeah.
complicated because one, it's a multi-dimensional relationship. Look, we have money itself, earning, spending, saving, investing, debt, giving, receiving, and then we have all of these judgments about rich people, poor people, other people, so, in social class. So when we really think about like the way like and the society really does stratify based on social class, and so all of that like othering, like, oh, those people on the other side of the tracks or whatever else, all of those things create mental structures that can get in the way of what we want. Like if I think that so and so's, a greedy capitalist pig because of the way that they make their money, but I want to make that same money, would I have to be a greedy capitalist pig to do that? And if the answer is yes, I'm going to have a very difficult time. I will self-sabotage and get in my own way as that goes. So and all of our relationship with ourselves and our self-worth and our self-trust is also entangled into this relationship with money because money is like the tool of creation. It's like the most versatile tool that there is. And so everything that's within you reflects in your relationship with money. And so it's intricate and nuanced.
Yeah. What did you want to be in the third grade? What was your dream as a
Oh, I
child?
wanted to be a marine biologist.
Oh, did you pursue any of that?
No, I got a fish tank and cleaning the fish tank was like, whoa, like oh, vomit in my mouth, so gross. And then I was like, FT man, we're not doing that.
That's it. My dad, he was an old Italian guy and he loved aquariums and he had a saltwater when I was a kid. And I remember how much of that calcite and all of those things would build up. And I was like, wow, it was an enormous undertaking. So I never aspired to it. I had some goldfish, but there was no filtration. It was easy. And if it didn't work out, it didn't work out.
Yeah, that's I mean, obviously if we have fish, we want to take loving good care of our fish.
Yeah.
Um, but once I figured out what that actually required, I was not. I was like not going for bigger fish. Like I
Yeah,
was like not trying to get in there with the sharks and whales and things.
totally. So let me ask you this. How did take me back to your childhood where you were born and raised, and how did this acumen of finance and money and this relationship that we have with money, how did this become your focal point and evolve into who you are today?
Oh, sure. So I started out of school as um I mean, I worked at a Boys and Girls Club. I was doing nonprofit work. And for a while there, I was really happy, but I was hardly making any money. And I got married young. So I had a mortgage and a husband and a baby and a whole house. And I taught myself how to trade stock options to like make enough money to supplement my income so I could keep my shitty job that I
Hey,
loved.
yeah,
And as time went on, I kind of outgrew that position and I decided that I would be a financial advisor because I already learned how to trade options, which is the hardest part of the Series 7. So I was like, oh, I'll just go and do this. And I got a job. And as I was working with my clients, what I found is people were coming to see me smart, successful, like run the community kind of people, making plenty of money. And their money was such a hot mess. And everything that I thought I knew about the way that money looked and behaved, like everything I thought I knew about money, I was just wrong.
yeah,
And so I started working with clients on budgets, and I'm talking like Joe, like sexy budgets, like
yeah,
spreadsheets that would like make you blush a little bit.
yeah,
And they weren't doing nothing to happen. They weren't doing it.
yeah,
Like nothing. Like I would call back and I'd be like, how's your budget? And they'd be like, yeah, I didn't do it. I was like, devastated.
yeah,
And so I started figuring out, well, like what habits do we need to change to get a shift here? And then that worked better. And then I started working on mindset and that worked way better. And then I started like understanding emotional intelligence and like energetics. And that really started to make things like super, super click. So in 2017, I started my own, I left my book of business. I started my own thing. And I've just been doing this. And really, it stems from the fact that I'm like real nosy. Like,
yeah,
I am nosy as fuck. Like, I want to know. I
yeah,
want to know what makes you tick. And I feel like reading somebody's transactions, there are very few things in life that are more intimate than that. Like, having your transactions read by somebody who's trying to help you is like all the whole truth is there. You can't
yeah,
hide anything.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
where your money goes is where your money goes, and that's just the whole truth.
yeah,
And so looking at those things, it gives you such a clear picture into people's lives. And I just feel like fortunate that people, one, are so open to share things with me, and two, that after you've read, tens of thousands of pages of transactions, the patterns become super clear between like what's happening in the bank statements and what's happening in the real lives, and then the fixes for those things it just becomes clear to me because
yeah,
I've done so much of it. And so it's one of those things that makes so much impact in people's lives, like literally like life change, like people who have not been able to afford to take their kids anywhere go on vacations, people who've not been able to afford to fix their houses, people who've not been able to afford to get out of shitty marriages are out of shitty marriages. And it's like it's just really satisfying. It's just
yeah.
like really satisfying.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like it's way more than just money. It's fixing people's lives and adjusting their psychology and getting them to a more behavioral, adaptable place for them to live the way they want to live.
Yeah, that's literally it. Because we have so, and like when you really think about your money belief system, like it doesn't just come from one place. It's not like you pick it up from your parents, your family, your community, your friends, the TV, radio. Like it comes from so many conflicting places. So most of the time, people's the mental structures that they're basing their entire relationship with money on is full of contradictions,
Yeah.
and it's super painful for people. Like it's one of these things that people don't really talk about, but it's super painful for people when they can't get it right.
How foundational on your timeline, your professional timeline, was being in the nonprofit world? Did that really give you an acumen and set you up for this life now that you have?
No, I don't think
Okay.
so. I mean, I loved doing it. I loved being a part of it. Um, but there I don't, you know what, it did give me like a different perspective. Like so I worked, so at the time I was making like $40,000 a year, maybe $38,000 a year.
Yeah.
And I live in Connecticut, so, and I had a mortgage and a baby, so that wasn't a ton of money,
Sure.
even a while ago. Um, and so I saw people's struggles.
Yeah.
Like, so there's that. And then in my work, I tend to work with people a little making you generally like my clients now are making a pretty solid amount of money. Um, but it's just a vastness of experiences across the board, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I used to work at a YMCA. I ran a couple of computer labs back in my early days, and I loved it. It was foundational. There was so many things that I realized that I picked up about what I wanted to do with my life. So that's why I was wondering. It's a unique world.
Yeah, no, I loved it. I loved it too. I was at that Boys and Girls Club for 10 years. I did every job there except for the gym and the janitor.
Yeah.
Literally like the I was the executive director. I wrote the grants, I ran the programs, I did summer camp, I did the all of like the back end administrative management. I ran the pool. I was a certified pool operator at one point. Like I
Nice.
literally like added the chemicals to the pool water. Um and so I mean, I feel like that's a benefit too, is just like versatility and adaptability and kind of going with the flow and growing into your next thing. So I did love it for a very long time. And then you just can't like live on
Yeah.
$46,000 a
Totally.
year. Like you know, there's a lot of drama. It's just,
Uh-huh.
so 10 years was like satisfying
That was
enough.
enough. That was enough. So of all the rich people that exist in the world, like you take the top list of rich people, who do you admire the most? That's wealthy, that does it the right way?
Hmm. Part of me really admires Elon Musk. I think what he's really trying to do with, the electric cars and whatever, I think there's some really pure intention behind that. And I think, I also love how just weirdly ballsy he is to just be the truth of who he is out for the world. That is not for the faint of heart. So that's something I admire.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I guess
Yeah.
he's one of the top ones.
So in your life, in your trajectory of what you've done in your life, who's been your hero? Who's been your inspiration?
That is a really good question. Um, I have a mentor. Her name's Julie Chanel, and she's been my marketing teacher, and she's somebody that I have admired the way that she does business. Like everything she sells is dependable. You can count on it. Um, she always does a good job for her people. And so I like that. That's a thing that I aspire to.
What was your first big purchase that made you nervous, but you look back on it and you're like, I'm so glad I did that. But at the time, I was just deathly afraid of it.
Oh, all right. So my first big purchase like that, I hired a business coach who was $10,000 for 6 months. And at
Wow.
the time when this was early when I became a stockbroker. I think I was making like $3,000 a month. So it was a wild amount of money for
Yeah.
me. I borrowed it. I wasn't like sitting on tons of money. And that was something that really shifted my trajectory because she gave me a lot of like the business like sides and structures and all of these like I was putting in so much effort doing shit that did not exactly like work out or make sense. And so once that effort was directed in things that made sense and did work out, like it really skyrocketed my income and my ability to hire people and my ability to like really make a big impact. And so I was super, super grateful for that.
In this modern world, too, coaching is such a big thing. I talk to a lot of coaches, and it's like that didn't used to be a thing years ago, but it is the thing now. And somebody was explaining to me, do you think an athlete would go out there without a coach? As good as they are, all of them constantly have coaches. Everybody that wants to do something well, right?
Yeah, and also at that time I thought business coaching was like a hilarious like I was like, "Oh, people pay you to be good at business. Like you pay somebody to like it seemed like such nonsense to me." And I saw an ad in the middle of the night and then I didn't click on it and I couldn't find it, but the next day I like literally like found her website and I called the phone number at the bottom of it and I was like, "Hey, I saw your ad and I did what do you do?" Like tell me what you do.
Yeah,
And she didn't even tell me she was a coach, which is so funny. But if she had, I'd probably been like, oh, that's weird. That's nonsense. But then I did a single session with her and she helped me so much. And I had so much clarity. And I was like,
yeah.
all right. And it was just such a good value for the money. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. So, what is your motivation to wake up every day to change people's lives, to help them be better with money, and to take care of yourself and evolve as a human being? What's that collective gumption every day for you?
I think that you just said it, Joe. It's I just love people and I want them to live their lives fully.
Yeah,
And I've done so much work studying how the mind works, how the body works, how the nervous system works, how money flows in and out of situations. And I have a really cool, unique skill set that's not very well documented. Like a lot of these things that I learned through, I'm talking thousands of hours of one-on-one meetings. Like when I'm telling you that I just wrote a book, I put it out there. These are things that I've tested with real people over long periods of time. Um, and I find that it gets good results. And so it's just offering a different perspective. So much of the conventional money wisdom out there is for the actual money. It's like, oh, well, if you can make your money work on paper, obviously you can do that in your real life. And that it's not at all the same. And then what ends up happening is when people can't get their budget that works on paper to work in their life, they think something's wrong with them. And that erosion of trust of self, that that creates a lack of confidence, and all of that is so detrimental to the rest of like your creative powers. And so kind of just breaking off of that and being like, no, actually zero-based budgeting is fucking stupid.
yeah,
Like actually no, that method maybe does work for like a handful of people, but really for the vast majority of people, the common financial wisdom around like make a budget and track your money and like all of these things like do need to happen. We're not saying that they don't need to happen, but we just need better systems and ways to do it and methods that actually work for human behavior instead of just work for the money, this inanimate money on paper.
yeah, yeah. I totally get it. Let's say you have a dream tonight. You enter a dreamland where you can run into a very young version of you, an 18-year-old, and you could give that young version of you one piece of financial advice that if you've accumulated over these years of wisdom that you have, what would you tell that young version of you?
I probably would have been like, don't sell that Green Mountain coffee roasters stock for 10%.
Oh no.
Well, you know,
Yeah.
I remember being maybe like early in my 20s and I bought a whole bunch of this stock and it went up like 10%. I was like, winning, sold it. And then like 2 months later, it was up like 300%.
Oh no. But how, that's the risk of it. I mean, that's the,
Yeah, it's all right. I'm not
yeah,
like, but I'm just saying if I was going to give myself one piece of financial advice, I
yeah,
probably would have been like, do
yeah,
that because that would have that would have paid for quite a bit of this house that we're in, you know?
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, I get it. So, of everything that you've done and accomplished in your life up to this point, what are you the proudest of?
Honestly, I'm really the proudest of the book that I just did. I have it right here.
And
So
please, I
this just
want you to
came
talk
out
about it. Yes.
and this was a really like I like just did my own podcast episode about like this was a hard project for me. One because all my like insecurities and perceived inadequacies of my work and all of this like just like a mental junk kind of came up uh, which is it is what it is. And then also it's like this project it had a long arc. Like, there's all of the getting ready to write the book,
Yep.
writing the book itself, going through that editing, going through the publishing process. And now I have a whole other arc of selling the book. And most of the time when I'm doing a project, they're like quick, like 10 weeks,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
even my like private clients hire me for a year at a clip, but that's their arc. I'm just holding hands with them.
Yeah.
So this project really stretched I don't know. Like I'm like a person who's like a quick start, but generally not a strong finish.
Yeah.
And it just required me to kind of break all of those ideas about how I work because it like if you don't finish your book, like you don't have a book,
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
if you don't get it edited, it's not done.
Yeah.
And so for me, it's and the book it's cute. It's like a quick little read. It's easy
Yeah.
to implement. It's very
Yeah.
conversational. Um but for me it was really big to get something that kind of project done. So I'm really proud of it.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing about writing something that's memoir style, where you have to dig into your life. I mean, that can really bring up a lot of things that maybe you didn't think about. Did you have to start and stop a lot? How was that process for you?
No, I dilly-dallied and wasted a lot of time until I was right under the gun of the deadline, and then I sat down and I like did it in a month.
You just did it. Yeah. Yeah. So At the end of the day, Brie, everyone has this perception of you, family, friends, clients, everyone that knows you, everyone that reads your book, but you run the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
I mean, I think I'm just a lady doing her best.
Yeah.
That's it.
So before we got on, we were kind of talking about the respective cities we live in or the states. What do you like the best about living in Connecticut? What is it that you look forward to and love the most?
You know, I it just feels good. The air smells good here. There's plenty of nature. You're close to, you have a variety of airports to choose from.
Yeah.
Like you could get to Boston, New York, Newark,
Yeah.
Providence, and then Connecticut has, so I like to travel. So having a variety of airports is oddly satisfying for me.
Yeah.
Um, there's four seasons. Sometimes I bitch about the taxes, but really, I'm happy to have all the services and like wonderful things that the state government does too. So, yeah, I think that's it.
Yeah, I dig it. So you have an adventurous spirit in you. I want to know this. If we get off this call, time machine pulls up, you can go anywhere in the history of time and see one event with your own eyes. Where are you going to go?
Mm. Oh, I don't know. Where would I go? Um, I don't know. I feel like I might just go to like the Colosseum in Rome and just like watch them feed some poor schmuck to a lion.
Yeah, right. There you go.
Like just like nothing like just like an average like, oh, we'll just feed this person to the lions. I don't know. That does
Yeah.
sound really terrible, but that was what came to my mind.
One of the more magnanimous moments I lived on this planet, it was in like no, 99, I believe, 1999. I went to Rome, and while I was walking around the Colosseum, a cell phone went off, and I was like, wow, the antiquity meeting modern day. It was just a really strange phenomenon. So anyway, it was wild. Um, so if anyone wants to pick up Cash Confident, if they want to reach out, they want to hire you, they want to learn more, any of the good business in your world, where can they go?
All right. So if you were to put Cash Confident into a Google search, I'm on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. I have my own podcast. The book is called Cash Confident. So if you were just to put, you could find me all the places that you could find somebody. Um, And that would probably be a good spot to start. If you're brand new to this kind of work, my podcast has really juicy content, like really juicy stuff that I teach. Um, and the book is also a really great place for foundational practical money management.
Who would be a dream guest on the podcast? If you could have one person on the planet to interview, who would it be?
Brene Brown.
Okay. All right. Well, we're putting it out there. So we'll see what happens, right? You know?
Yeah.
Bree, this has been wonderful. Thank you. Thank you so much for your story. I love your energy. Thank you so much. I
Oh,
appreciate
it
it.
was a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.